Good evening, folks, and welcome back to yet another episode of NASCAR Backmarker Battles on a Wednesday this week. I'm your host of the usual ARCA Racing podcast, Colby Evans, aka Starting Parker on Twitter, and we have a very big and fun show for you guys today: the Chicago Street Course review and the preview show for Atlanta and Mid-Ohio. One of the rare weekends where we have NASCAR divisions at two different tracks. You don't see that very often, so very fun show for you guys today. Thank you all for tuning in, of course. Again, the reason why we didn't do this on Tuesday, first and foremost, obviously 4th of July, the holidays, the big holiday, the big American holiday. So didn't want to do it yesterday because I figured most of you guys would be launching fireworks, drinking beer, just having fun with your families. So we just put it till today. So you guys know the drill, though. We're going to do my little intro and we will hop right into the racing action. So follow me on Twitter at social media, Start and Park Car for all ARCA tweets, low-budget tweets, all that fun crap. Like and subscribe to the channel. Turn on that bell for notifications so you guys never miss a podcast when we go live. And, of course, check out theracingexperts.com for all NASCAR media-related content. All righty. So, yeah, we'll get right into the review. The Chicago Street Course. Now, you guys remember last week's show. I wasn't very kind to it. I don't really prefer street racing in any way, shape, or form. It's not to say that the race was bad. I'm not, and I even voted on Jeff Gluck's poll. I voted yes. The race was not bad by any means. I didn't vote the race bad by any means. Did I enjoy it? No. But it wasn't a bad race. From my perspective, I didn't enjoy it. But from a casual fan's perspective, it wasn't a bad race. It's just not my thing. And I think that's going to be the problem for the hardcore NASCAR fans. Something like this is going to be hard to get used to. And I understand. A lot of the fans of today are appreciating the diversity of the NASCAR schedule. And, at the end of the day, I'm the kind of guy where as I look at the 2015 NASCAR schedule, visiting all these tracks multiple times a year, all these cookie cutters, short tracks, and the 2 road courses, which was all we ever needed. I'm like, that's perfect. That's the perfect schedule. And yet today we got just tracks everywhere and dates everywhere, all these weird tracks. And I don't know. It's just so weird. It is. I don't understand it. I've never seen the need for a street race. I will say, though, I will say this. We have blown IndyCar away when it comes to street racing. We can actually put on a pretty decent street race better than IndyCar can. That's the one thing I'll give NASCAR. The first NASCAR street race was better than any IndyCar street race I've ever seen. So if there's one positive I can honestly say about this race is that it's better than any IndyCar street race that I've ever seen and probably will in the future. I just don't care for it. I don't. I just really don't, And I tried to say on Twitter, I'm not trying to make the race seem unimportant. I just don't care for it. I don't care for this concept of racing. I also think we got way too many road courses on the schedule anyway. So you guys can put in the chat what you guys think. I'm kind of curious to get your opinions. What do you guys think on the street course? I just don't think it's needed. And I'll start right off saying I think my tweet on Sunday, some people got pretty mad at it. But I think it's true. I think the 91 of SVG, I'm going to botch his name, so I'm just going to say SVG. You guys know who I'm talking about. He saved that race. He made that race fun. And frankly, had anyone else but him won the race, I don't think the race would have been looked at as fondly. Honestly, I really don't think it would have been. But obviously, we'll go more into the Cup race when we get to that portion, because we also had the Xfinity Series with one of the biggest entry lists of the year. Outside of Daytona, 43 cars entered for this race. So you knew qualifying, the Xfinity qualifying session was probably going to be the most fun of the weekend. With a lot of the oddball entries we had. Of course, some of the notable ones, Preston Pardus with his 50 team. Again, that's a family operation by himself and his father, Dan Pardus, former Busch Series driver. The 36 by DGM was brought back out with Alex Gunnett. We had the 34, Jesse Uji Motorsports was making their first appearance since Talladega with Andre Castro. We had, who else did we have? Had a couple more oddball entries. I can't think of them right now. A lot of different driver combinations. Either way, we were going to have 5 DNQs. And it was kind of weird because in practice, they made everybody go straight to rains. Everybody go straight to rain tires. But then towards the end of practice, they actually switched to dries because the track began to dry out. So we actually ended up qualifying on dry tires, which kind of made the practice results irrelevant, considering a lot of people didn't get quite the clean laps. The more notable notes from practice, unfortunately, the MBM team struggles continue for those poor guys. They lost a rear axle, so they only got 3 laps. And so the time that Dexter registered was actually under rain conditions. He was not 13 seconds actually off the pace. It was clear that there were cars that were going to struggle. Brent Sherman, I mean, he hadn't been in a stock car since, I think, a 2016 ARCA race. So it'd been a while, and he's not a road racer either. What a random appearance by Brent Sherman. But, hey, you got to love the random appearances. Dawson Cram, CHK, Joey Gase in the 08, just cars that we kind of knew would be slow. They were going to give it their best shot, but they're just – Dawson's not a road racer. Joey's not a road racer. You just knew they were going to struggle. JD Motorsports, both cars outside the top 35. A little concerning for Jeffrey Earnhardt, even though they put him in the car that's highest in points, the car that also could potentially still miss the show and actually would end up. 34 of Andre Castro. We know Jesse Uji Motorsports gets Hendrick engines. So, and shout out to them. It was a bare chassis. They literally built that car in, I think, 2 weeks or like 20 days. So, but they had a Hendrick motor. So even if Andre wasn't the best on the course, I mean, when you have an A-plus Hendrick motor, it's kind of hard for you not to miss the race when you got all that power under you. But we moved to qualifying, and yep, we were qualifying in the dry. And, a lot of these guys, they made multiple runs. They made a lot of multiple runs, but unfortunately, for some, it just wasn't meant to be. For Dexter, Stacy, God, it breaks my heart seeing MBM miss so many races. I mean, this is their 9th DNQ of the year. Dawson Craman, CHK, this is their 11th DNQ of the year. They have made 3 races, DNQ'd 11. I think MBM's made 5 and DNQ'd 9. Joey Gase, that was honestly not the most surprising DNQ. Obviously, the 08 was ahead of a couple of cars. I know they're ahead of the 44 in both of the Emerlane Gase cars, but it was still going to be a long shot whether that car could still make it because I knew Joey was not going to get that car in the top 33. He's just not a road racer. They were definitely banking on a provisional in order to try to get that car in the show, and unfortunately it wasn't enough. And then we kind of came to some weird DNQs. We had Jeffrey Earnhardt, probably one of the more surprising DNQs, and Dexter Bean. Now, even though Dexter Bean isn't a road racer and Jeffrey Earnhardt is not a road racer, these 2 cars were 26th and 27th in owner points. So it shows you these cars were in the top 30 10K bonus. And they missed the show. And at the end of the day, sometimes it can be the consequences when you try to put somebody who's maybe not a road racer, try to get them in a car that you think is high enough in points to where they're going to be fine. We've seen this happen many times before. Now, the problem is that no matter which car you would put Jeffrey in, he was going to go home. Had he been in the 44, he would have went home. Had he would have been in the 43, he would have went home. So the unfortunate part is Jeffrey was going to go home either way. But it's a shame because it's the one full-time driver for Alpha Prime Racing this year. The car that really can't afford to go home has went home. And now that makes 2 straight weeks of DNQs for Alpha Prime Racing, which it's really sucks because yeah, they're a lower tier team, but they're not MBM or CHK level lower tier team. They're about mid-pack. They're a mid-pack our organization, top 20 at best organization. And for them to DNQ, man, that's a lot of money lost. And I feel bad for them because I love Tommy Joe. Tommy Joe's a really cool guy, so that sucked to see. And for Dexter, obviously, he's a relative of Mario Goslin, and it kind of really sucks for Mario Goslin. The part-time car, the 36, made the race, but the full-time car that brings in the most money missed the race. So kind of a good situation, bad situation for DGM. Some of the surprises of qualifying, both JD cars narrowly made the race, 32nd and 33rd. Andre Castro was able to make the show in 28th. Blaine Perkins, honestly, shockingly made the show in 29th. I didn't think he was going to be that quick. Despite crashing, Spencer Pumpelly was able to run a quick enough lap to get the 07 in the field. Alex Gounet was 18th. And Preston Pardus, arguably the biggest shocker, him and Sage Karam were 11th and 12th in qualifying. So that was cool to see those backmarker, especially Sage, for how embarrassing that must have been DNQing that race at Nashville, for them to not only qualify well, but to qualify inside the top 15 is definitely a statement. But I remember going back to last week wondering, Sage, I don't know if he brought the money, but man, it really questioned me why they put Sage in that car in Nashville, knowing that he was not the best oval racer in a stock car. He hadn't been in a stock car that many times on an oval, and you were really playing with fire there, and unfortunately it bit them. But good to see him qualifying this good. Unfortunately, although we had a good Friday, Saturday, Mother Nature opened up, and boy, when she opened up, she wouldn't stop. God dang, the rain and rain and rain. Mercifully, we somehow got this race started on Saturday. And honestly, after what I saw, I didn't see anything good. It's hard to judge this because you could say, in racing terms, this race didn't get out of first gear. They'd only ran 25 laps. They had just finished the first stage. Obviously, with no stage cautions, they just kept going. We did have a couple cautions in the race. Very rare engine failure for Our Motorsports. Justin Marks grenaded. And then arguably the highlight of the race, Andre Castro appeared to lose his brakes going into turn one, had a horrible hit with the front side wall, first turn wall, I'm supposed to say. Those were the two DNFs. Josh Williams, he had a suspension failure early in the race, so he lost 3 laps. The 44 Sage Karam literally lost a tire on the first lap due to braking too hard, and so that was their good run by. And yeah, the race just never really got a chance to get into a second gear. So it's hard to judge it, and they were running in the rain. So again, it's so hard to judge this race. Some people do call it the worst race of all time. I don't. I hate it because we didn't get to see where this race could have went. Now, like I said, was I enjoying it in general? No. But was I going to watch it? Yeah, because I'm a NASCAR fan. We watch all the races. No matter how much we complain about the races, we're still going to watch them. That's what we do. It's like with wrestling. No matter how much you complain about the show, you're going to watch it. So I was going to watch it nonetheless. And yeah, unfortunately, the rain got too heavy. Or no, they had the lightning strike, and then they had another lightning strike, and then another lightning strike, and then another lightning strike, and then another lightning strike. And then finally they just said, F it, too many lightning strikes, too much rain, let's just come back tomorrow. So we come back the next day, and man, is it raining even harder than it was the previous day. So, and a lot of people are thinking, man, are we just going to have them run 3 laps under caution and then call it? Honestly, it looked like even running out there under caution pace would have been treacherous for these teams. That's how much water was on this track. I mean, it was unbelievable rain. And at this point, although my opinions on the race and the street course hadn't changed, I legit felt bad. Because at the end of the day, even if I don't agree with the street race thinking, I don't want to see NASCAR fail. I don't want to see that happen. Nobody wants to see that happen. So, although I didn't care for the street race, I hated it, and I felt bad for NASCAR because, man, this is their big break. This is their first shot doing this, and it's literally raining on their parade. So, mercifully, NASCAR had no choice. Obviously, had to move through with Cup obligations, and they called it. And I think they said it's one of, is it the shortest Xfinity race? If anyone in the chat can correct me, is it one of the, or if not the shortest Xfinity race of all time? They called the race. And what kind of shocked me is they just kind of handed out points and purse money right there. I was kind of shocked that they did that, considering the lack of race really run. Only 55 miles of the race was actually ran. But they awarded full points to Cole Custer, which I don't really know if that's fair. Obviously, I think the teams deserve their purse money, absolutely. But I kind of just feel like maybe we should have just kind of given them the purse money, but yet the points stay the same. Because, I mean, for the teams who are at the back of the field, I mean, they didn't even get a chance to really do anything. You had a lot of guys who were just kind of riding and didn't get a chance to show anything. I mean, Brent Sherman didn't do anything the whole race. A lot of the lower tier guys didn't get a chance to get out of the box because they were probably waiting for the rest of the race or just kind of getting their motions in, and then boom, the race is over. So I think this Xfinity race is not going to be looked at very fondly. If anything, it'll probably just be forgotten about. And I kind of hate it for Cole Custer because, yeah, he got the trophy, but at the end of the day, it's a win that you would like to forget, which you never want to see anyone say. Like when he actually says it's a win you want to forget, that's when you know it's not fun. So, but yeah, I was going into the Cup race with no real expectations because what I saw in the Xfinity race didn't impress me. Hardly any passing. Realistically, the only guy who looked like he could pass in the Xfinity race was Sheldon Creed. That's about it. Other than that, I didn't see any passing. I wasn't impressed. So going into the Cup race, I just said, you know what? No expectations. Let's see what we can see. Let's see if this race does anything for me. Now, obviously, to the casual fan, aesthetically, it's looked cool. Aesthetically, a street race looks cool. But when you look at the actual race itself, 9 out of 10 times it's boring. And that's my biggest problem with street racing. The spectacle of it, the look of it is 100% awesome. But when you dissect the race itself, 90% of the time the race is garbage. And that's why I hope street racing doesn't get more popular in NASCAR. Once the first couple years of novelty wears off, people are going to start to get tired of it. Like the Roval. I think after the first year, the Charlotte Roval has completely lost its luster. And with how great the next gen does at Charlotte in general, let's bring that 500-mile race back. So we move over to the Cup race. Obviously, we're going to have 38 cars, but then the Jimmy Johnson tragedy happened, so they withdrew the 84, which left us with 37. The 36 Cup cars, with the 37th being the Project 91 car of SVG, the Australian V8 supercar driver. So this guy knows what he's doing. He's not just some scrub. He knows what he's doing. So, but I just don't think people expected him to be adapting and this good this quick. I mean, I expected him top 10, top 5, but nobody really expected him to do what he did. So the race gets going, and again, we're starting this race in the rain. Turn 6 was easily the trouble spot. Noah Gragson, I think he got stuck in turn 6 like 20 times. It was actually starting to get annoying hearing Mike Bagley say, "Oh, trouble, turn 6, someone's stuck." It was actually starting to get annoying. It really was. And I like Mike Bagley as a commentator. He's great. But man, was it actually starting to get annoying seeing how many times I think it was Stenhouse, Truex, Gragson 7 times. So many people got stuck in turn 6. So first couple of incidents happened. Nobody really fell out of the race until about a little bit later in the race. Bowman, and I'll even say this, up until the Bowman accident, the Bowman crash, or I guess it wasn't a crash, it was stall, I thought the race was quite boring. We did have some interesting moments in the beginning. Yeah, we had Hamlin, the pole sitter, clip the wall. We had a couple of people spin out. We had Legacy Motor Club and Keselowski almost implode in turn 1. Okay, fine. That's entertaining, but does it make for good racing? No. Was there any passing really going on? No. Hardly any passing was going on. And that's the one thing I really noticed. You might see a couple of pass changes from time to time, but nothing really serious going on. And then the track started to dry out. Personally, the most entertaining part for me was watching them run the slick tires on the wet track. That's my favorite part of road course racing, when you got the guys, you're ready to go to slicks, but that track is still very wet. But it's time to go to slicks no matter what, because you'll get that heat even quicker. That's the entertaining part of road course racing that I myself enjoy. And it's the one thing I love about playing that on racing games, is when you go from wets to slicks. So that part was kind of fun, but still, for me, the racing wasn't very fun. And then we had the Bowman caution, and this one kind of irked me. Now, Bowman had spun around, got back going again, but appeared to have some sort of mechanical issue and stopped at one point on the track. Now, the reason why this caution bothers me, and I understand nobody should ever step foot onto a hot racetrack. I get that. But if you remember the footage, he was literally 5 feet in front of a runoff area. The officials were looking at him. You're telling me, and I understand it's a hot track, but you're telling me nobody's in these officials' ears telling them, okay, guys, you got 90 seconds to push that car behind the wall. They're fine. Okay, it'll take them 15 seconds at most to get that car behind that safer barrier. And then Bowman can just kind of walk back to, I don't know what they would have done, but they so easily could have gotten that 48 car out of the way. And if anything, that was the caution that divulged the race into chaos, because it was that restart that then led to the eventual pileup, I think, to the second to last turn, which also didn't make any sense. I love how Kevin Harvick didn't want to lose positions, so he pulled in front of everybody else to stop from losing positions. That's a smart driver right there. But at the end of the day, they just end up giving the positions back. That really didn't make any. Why are we giving positions back? No, I'm sorry. If all these cars pass you, you're not getting back by them. So then they just let the 20, the 11, and they just all go right back by. And I'm like, what are we doing? Why are we making up the rules as we go? So I don't know. That was a little frustrating part for me. It was kind of cool seeing some backmarker guys run pretty well throughout this race. Andy Lally in a full Rick Ware setup. He was doing a lot better than he did at Sonoma. Was actually running top 25 most of the day. Josh Bilecki, man, I tell you, he really shows what he can do even in a Live Fast car. He ran top 25 the entire day, top 20 at one point. Jensen Button, not a Rick Ware car, full Stewart Haas car with a Rick Ware name on it. He ran top 15 until he spun himself out on pit road. Ty Dillon, he actually was running top 20 at one point until a mechanical issue kind of ruined his day to another disappointing finish. And Noah Gragson came back from 3 laps down for a lead lap finish, but even though he's had 2 straight finishes lately, it's still been mediocre runs at best for Legacy Motor Club. But yeah, then we had the pile-up accident. We had all this mixture of people. And then they had this weird caution where everybody stayed out, but then they said they were going to shorten the race. So then the people who stayed out had to pit anyway. It was a weird mix of stuff. And this is where the race really bothered me. You had Justin Haley, who had run mid-pack at best all day, but yet you put him out front. This is my biggest problem with street racing. On old tires and out front. And nobody can pass him. Nobody can pass him. Austin Dillon, he's on old tires. These guys are on old tires. They stayed out, and yet they're leading the race like they've been the 2 most dominant cars all day. That is my biggest problem with street racing. And, you know, what's funny is like people who are saying that this race had more passes than Sonoma, statistically, that's not true at all. This race only had a little over 1,200 passes in it. Sonoma had over 2,000. So right there, your argument's killed. This race did not have a lot of passing. And seeing the 30 and the 31 hold off the entire field with really no charge. Chase Elliott couldn't do anything in third. And these 2 guys on old tires are now all of a sudden the class of the field. That's my biggest problem with street racing. The only guy who was making the race fun, the only guy who was making the race interesting was the 91 who literally came from like 19th and just one of the most impressive drives I've ever seen. He drove through that field, making crisp, clean passes. SVG is a damn beast. And man, that was fun to watch. But it was frustrating seeing the guys on older tires and the guys who had pitted absolute latest, had the freshest tires, could not pass them. Nobody could pass each other. It was really, really hard to pass. So you get SVG up there, and we had a couple cautions in between for some stalled cars. SVG is getting his way up there, and right as he's about to go for the lead, another caution comes out. And we all knew Justin Haley's on old tires. He ain't going to be able to hold them off. He makes the pass. Right as we're about to get the white flag, another caution comes out, so another restart. He nails the restart. And SVG in his very first start, Shane Van Gisberen, is that how you pronounce it correctly? I'm sorry if I didn't. But he wins in his Cup Series debut, first time since 1963 that has been done. He led 9 laps of the 78, one of the most impressive drives I have ever seen in my time of being a racing fan. It is absolutely great to see. Justin Haley, and like I said, and this is my problem, Justin Haley, Chase Elliott, they were 2 non-factors all day. Complete non-factors. But yet they finished second and third just because they got up there. Once you're up there, as long as you play your cards right, you're going to be just fine. For some underdogs, how the underdogs fared, we had Michael McDowell get 7th. We knew he was going to run good. We knew Michael McDowell was going to run good in 7th. We had Corey LaJoie 14th. Again, shout out to Corey. Really does get the most out of that 7 car. And that's why I'll say his run in the 9 car should not be looked at as how he actually is. Corey LaJoie is better than that. Todd Gilliland 19th, so both cars in the top 20 for Front Row Motorsports. Jensen Button 21st, Josh Bilicki 23rd, Andy Lally 26th. So a decent day for Rick Ware Racing. Even at the 51 did lose a point. The only real backmarker to struggle was Ty Dillon, who fell out of the race after 67 laps with a suspension failure and another disappointing 35th place finish. Like I said, overall, I don't like street racing. I don't like the concept of it. Was the race bad? No. And I will say I didn't appreciate some of the comments that I was kind of getting. People calling me an ARCA mark. He thinks ARCA is the pinnacle of motorsports. Well, sorry if I do. It's not the pinnacle of motorsport. I don't think that at all. I just love ARCA. It was the first series I grew up watching. It was not NASCAR. That's one thing I've always said. I didn't start watching NASCAR. I started watching ARCA races because when I wasn't always a racing fan. I liked trains, and then I would watch the ARCA races with my grandfather because he would watch them for James Hilton. That's where I started watching racing, was ARCA. And then I would start watching the big races with my dad. If you guys wanted to hear about that, that's kind of where I got into actual NASCAR. But I always watched ARCA races because that's all my grandfather would watch. So yeah. What also made it really cool was that this was an open car win, the second open car win. The first one was AJ Allmendinger 2021 at Indianapolis. And that's the funniest part about this. They won the race and will literally probably get about $25,000 in earnings. Hey, thanks for coming to the Cup race, guys. We know you spent over $150,000. Here's $25,000. That's the problem I have with the charter system. You've basically told 37th through 40th, fuck you. That's pretty much and I don't cuss much on this channel, but that's what they pretty much told them. I mean, second place is going to get way more. Justin Haley practically won the race in terms of purse money. So, I mean, it's just so stupid. Really, you're only going to get them probably at most, even if they get $25,000. It's ridiculous how the open car system works in the Cup Series, but it is what it is. But that's the Cup Series. Street racing, it's not needed, but if it's here to stay, I guess I got to accept it. So I'm never going to be on board with it, but as long as most of the fan base enjoyed it, which it looked like they did, I guess I can't complain. But I'm never going to be on board with it. Let's just not go overboard with this. If we do this 3 times a year, 2 or 3 times a year, you are going to wear this out so quickly. You will have fans begging for the cookie cutters to come back. Mark my words. And with that, guys, we transfer over into the second part of our show, the preview portion of our show, which will include 2 different racetracks. The Truck Series, which is at Mid-Ohio, with the ARCA Series, which will be on tomorrow's show. And then, of course, you got Xfinity and Cup at the Atlanta Super Speedway, which I'm still not fond of either. I prefer old Atlanta. I'm sure we all do. How many of you in the chat prefer old Atlanta? Because I still do. But yeah, we have all 3 series this weekend, 2 different racetracks. We'll start off with the Truck Series. Mid-Ohio, very fun road course. Kind of miss it on the Xfinity schedule. I don't necessarily think the track would work for the Cup Series, but it's a perfect track for Xfinity and Truck to run on. We actually are going to have a pretty interesting qualifying session. We have 38 trucks here for 38 spots. One of the rare times you will see DNQs in a truck race on a road course. We do have some very, very fun entries. So like I said, this is going to be a really fun race. We got William Sawalich. He's going to be pulling double duty, running both ARCA and truck. He'll be in the 1 for Tricon. Will Rogers will be in the 0-2, so that means a good run could possibly be coming for Youngs. Landon Lewis, the current ARCA West points leader, will be running the 0-4 for Roper Racing. Marco Andretti, yes, the former SRX champion. I don't prefer him as an IndyCar driver. The former SRX champion, Marco Andretti, will be driving the 7 Spire truck. Matt Mills is back in the 20 for Young's Motorsports. Austin Wayne Self, yes, he is back in the 22, his former ride from last year. Again, now they're a Ford team this year instead of being a Chevrolet. Ryan Vargas is back in the 30 for On Point Motorsports. Josh Rayom is back in his own 33 truck. And Caleb Costner from the ARCA Series will be attempting his Truck Series debut in the 34. Connor Daly, the guy who formerly got released from his IndyCar ride, he is going to be in the 41 truck for Nice. Dale Quarterly, the quarter man, will be in the 46 for G2G. Now note, this is Dale's own truck. It's just simply easier to run it under G2G because that way he has the owner points behind him and I think already has the crew. So this is Dale's truck run under G2G. And then, of course, we got Jack Wood in the 51. Whoopee. And then, of course, Connor Jones in the 66. Let's hope this race finally goes good because Connor Jones has kind of just been a wrecking machine this year. 2 trucks going home. The 2 trucks lowest in owner points right now, I believe, are the 34 and the 7. I think only because the 7s ran only a couple of races. Despite winning at Wilkesboro, the 7's still pretty low in points. If I had to pick DNQs for the truck race, I will pick the 34 of Costner. I love Caleb, but rookie road course, I just don't see him having enough speed. And frankly, honestly, I'm picking both the Rayom trucks. I think Dale Quarterly will have more than enough speed, especially because he's running the ARCA race. So I think Dale will have more than enough speed. I'm actually picking both of the Josh Rayom trucks to miss the race, which I hate saying. I absolutely hate saying that because I love Josh Rayom. I love his team. I love a lot of guys on that team are my friends, but I got to call it fair. I don't see either of the Josh Rayom trucks making this race. Because I think he's still behind one of the lowest full-time trucks in points. So I see both of those trucks going home, unfortunately. But overall, should be a fun race. Last year's race was very fun. A lot of potential winners. I'm actually going to go for a race-winning pick. I am actually going to go with I'm going to go ahead and go with Christian Eckes. I'm going to go with Christian Eckes as my winning pick. And my dark horse underdog pick, I'm actually going to go with Landon Lewis. Because we know he's a great road racer, but I'm going to go with him. He's going to be my dark horse. Moving on to Xfinity now at, of course, Atlanta. Again, this is now Super Speedway Atlanta. Super Speedway Atlanta, where all you now have to do is just hold a steady wheel. We got 39 cars here for 38 spots. Note, the 74 CHK team is not entered for this race. I don't think this means the team is shutting down. You know, we know Mike Harmon's got the lawsuit money. We know Gary Keller's bringing extra funding. I think this was just a case of, I think they knew they probably wouldn't make the show. Their single car speed at Talladega was not good. Their single car speed at Daytona was not good. So I think they probably just knew that they wouldn't make the show. And it's probably the smartest move for them to do. Wait till the next week where you have more of a logistical chance of making this race. And I don't blame them. I really don't blame them. So it sucks not to see CHK here. But from a business standpoint, I can agree, or I can understand 100% why they did not come to this race. But it is kind of sad at the end of the day. We still got 39 cars here, so one will miss the show. Some of the oddball entries, Garrett Smithley returns to the 4-car after a 2-race absence. The 08 and 07 will be accompanied by the Masons, Mason Maggio in the 07 and Mason Massey in the 08. David Starr returns to the 35 again for Emerling Gase Motorsports. The 36 has been brought back out again for Kyle Weatherman. Greg Van Alst, ARCA regular, former ARCA regular Greg Van Alst will be in the 44. Akinori Ogata will be in the 53. Chad Fincham will be back in the 66. And Josh Bilicki will be in the 91. Now, we talked about the story before of leased motors. At Daytona, you got to have a leased motor if you're going to think about making the show. I don't see that being the case for this one. We've seen teams go all out for Daytona and Talladega. Atlanta, yes, it's wide open, but it's its own different animal. It's a different animal in terms of this type of qualifying where I don't think teams are going to want to spend the money on leased motors for this race, especially the teams that know they're locked in. They'll probably just run their own motors because they know they'll draft good. They don't want to spend the money. And only one car is going home. Now, judging by standards, you would probably think that the 66 is going home. At the end of the day, we don't know what car they're bringing. It has listed as a Toyota, but we've seen Carl mix up his makes before. So if I had to pick a DNQ, I don't want to say the 66, but unfortunately, I'm going to say the 66 of Carl Long or of MBM. Chad has failed to make every race he's attempted this year, which is kind of sad because they've had speed. They just don't have enough speed to make the show. But I think the 66 unfortunately misses again. But if they do make the show, then I would say that the next car in line that I'd be a little concerned about would be the 44 of Greg Van Alst. That 44 is not very high in points at all. So I hope 44 can make the show. But I would also say probably the 35 will then be my other DNQ pick. 35 or 53. One of the Emerling Gase cars would be my DNQ pick to go home. Obviously, this race is wide open with the super speedway type atmosphere. So we definitely have a chance at an oddball winner. So I'm going to go with the Iowa boy. I'm going to go with Brett Moffitt as the winner. He's a great super speedway racer. He's got a great car under him. So I'm going to go with the 25 to win. And my underdog pick, I'm going to go with, if I had to give a real underdog pick for this race, considering who's in the field, probably would go with Ryan Sieg. Ryan Sieg would be my underdog pick. Then we have the Cup race, the Quaker State 400. We do have an open car for this race. One of the rare times we see an open car at a non-super speedway event or road course event. The 62 of Austin Hill, obviously with the partnership with RCR, has allowed them to expand a couple races. So they will be making their first start, I believe, of the year or the second start of the season for them. Other than that, we got the usual 37 cars, but a couple of changes. JJ Ailey is back in the 15 as Cole Custer. Yes, Cole Custer returns to the Cup Series. And this is a big get for Rick Ware Racing as they look to stay inside that precious top 33. Right now, both cars are in. And honestly, with the 51, both guys are great plate racers. Cole Custer is a great plate racer. JJ Ailey is a great plate racer. This could be a real opportunity weekend for Rick Ware Racing to gain points on the team. The 77 is over 15 points back. The 42 is only 1. But yeah, you can definitely probably say that most of the teams in the garage are not wanting that 51 to finish inside the top 33. Because if they do, it guarantees Rick Ware another 3 years at minimum in the Cup Series. Man, again, this race is, like I said, this is pretty much a wide open race. I would say out of the 36 cars, probably a good 26 to 30 of these guys could actually win. Obviously, my heart was broken in the spring when Brad Keselowski literally lost it on the last lap because he's my guy. We almost saw Corey LaJoie win this race last year. Actually, they're in a new sponsorship with Gainbridge, so kind of shocking to see the big sponsor from Andretti Autosport in the IndyCar pretty much coming over to sponsor Gainbridge, sponsor Spire. They'll sponsor the 7 this weekend. If I had to give an actual race winning pick, Oh, God. Who do you guys got in the chat? I don't know. I want to go with the Chevrolet driver because they usually do the best on the plate track. So I'll go. Tell you what, I'll go wild. I'll go with Austin Dillon. I'll go with Austin Dillon as my winner's pick for this weekend. Probably not the best pick, but I'll go with Austin Dillon because, again, it's a wide open race. My underdog pick, well, I'll give it to Michael McDowell. Just go with that. 2 wild picks. So, yeah, New Atlanta, I think we can all agree we don't really like it. I'm kind of curious to see how it'll do the more the surface ages. Will we eventually have to start seeing them let off in the corners as the track ages? That's kind of that's probably one of the few little interests this track has for me is as the surface gets older, will they still be able to go 100% around the track? And when we reach that point, which won't be far away, I mean, maybe 2-3 more years, we'll be able to do this with them running wide open. But as that surface gets older, they will not be able to run wide open anymore. And that, I think, could actually add some intrigue to Atlanta. We have to get there first. But I think there is still potential in this new Atlanta. I just want to see where it goes after this surface ages. And it's been aging now for a good, year and a half, almost 2 years now. So I think within another 3 to 4 years, I think New Atlanta will be fun. But for now, it's pretty much nothing. And the Cup race will be under the lights, which is we'll be under the lights. Well, I think we're just setting ourselves up for chaos. But you know what? If it's fun chaos and it's fun for the fans, so be it then. I just don't like street racing. And that's my personal opinion. You guys can disagree with that, but it's what it is. So that was Backmarker Battles tonight, guys. Street racing happened. I hope it doesn't happen again, but I'm sure it will. Mid-Ohio is going to be fun. I would highly recommend you guys tune into that race on Saturday. Highly, highly recommend you guys don't miss that one. Xfinity and Cup, you guys can watch it. You're going to see pretty much the same thing every single lap. It's not going to be anything new. But obviously, if you're a diehard fan like I am, you're going to watch no matter what. No matter how much we complain, like I said it before, no matter how much we complain, we're going to watch it because we just do. That's what sports fans do. No matter how much we complain, we'll just end up watching it anyway. So then we'll here to tomorrow with the ARCA Racing podcast. Don't forget about that. Live again at 7 p.m. So tune into that as well. All things ARCA. We got not the biggest entry list, but not the biggest entry list, but I definitely think still put on a good show. But we'll talk more about that tomorrow, guys. I'm going to get out of here. You guys enjoy the rest of your Wednesday night. I hope all of you had a wonderful 4th of July, and we're past the first 6 months of 2023. Holy crap, is this year gone by fast. So if you guys had a great first 6 months, I hope the next 6 months go better for you too. And I hope the next 6 months get better for me as well. So we'll catch you all here tomorrow with the ARC Racing podcast, again, live at 7 p.m. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Turn on that bell for all notifications so you guys never miss a podcast when we go live. I've been Colby Evans, starting Park Car, and I'm signing off. So long, guys.